I am here today to talk about changing epidemiology and burden of Crimean Congo Hemorrhagic Fever. I have no conflict of interest regarding this presentation. In this presentation, I will focus on four major issues. First, I would like to give you an overview of Crimean Congo Hemorrhagic Fever, then bringing you up to date on geographic distribution of the disease. Thirdly, I will go on to highlight what I see as the main points of emergence of the disease. And finally, I would like to address strategies for prevention of Crimean Congo Hemorrhagic Fever. So let me first give you a brief overview of the disease. Crimean Congo Hemorrhagic Fever is a tick-borne zoonosis caused by a virus. Viral hemorrhagic fevers share many common features. In general, early signs and symptoms can include fever and hemorrhage associated with thrombocytopenia. So, Hyoloma genus ticks have three life stages: larvae, nymph, and adult. Hyoloma genus commonly infest livestock and farm animals, such as sheep and cattle, and also ground-dwelling birds. Infection in humans typically occur by a tick bite or from contact with the blood or tissue of infected livestock. Nosocomial infection is an important problem in endemic countries such as Pakistan, Iran, Russia, Turkey, and also Afghanistan. These endemic regions have the common features that hot, dry summers with cold and moderate rainy winters. Land structure is more fragmented. Agriculture, backyard farming, and animal husbandry are common. This habitat is favorable for tick survival when the vegetation structure is associated with livestock grazing. The altitude is generally around 1,000 meters above the sea level, and Crimean Congo Hemorrhagic Fever is mostly seen in people working in animal husbandry and agriculture in rural areas. In Turkey, we see more patients in the summer months from April to September, with a peak incidence in June and July. Now let's look at the geographic distribution of Crimean Congo Hemorrhagic Fever. Crimean Congo Hemorrhagic Fever is found in over 30 countries in Africa, Asia, Eastern Europe, the Balkans, the Middle East, and in the past years, the virus appeared in new areas such as India and Spain. So just over the two decades, Turkey, Greece, Georgia, India, and Spain have reported their first cases. Let's take a closer look at the epidemiology of Crimean Congo Hemorrhagic Fever in Turkey. The first cases of Crimean Congo Hemorrhagic Fever were reported in Tokat province in May 2002. In the following years, despite awareness and mass education campaigns, the number of cases was rapidly increased, and the disease spread horizontally to the neighboring cities, which have similar climate. The climate of the Anatolian region have optimum climate for survival of the Hyoloma tick population. So what is the situation in Spain? 8 human cases have been reported in Spain from 2016 to 2021, and 3 of them were fatal. Migratory birds from Africa harboring Crimean Congo Hemorrhagic Fever virus infected ticks and flying to Spain appear to have contributed to the establishment of the virus, especially genotype 3, African lineage. Recent findings in a patient and ticks from deer of viral sequences similar to those from Eastern Europe, genotype 5, European 1 lineage. This raises the possibility of the introduction of the Crimean Congo Hemorrhagic Fever virus into Spain through animal trade. The highest seroprevalence of Crimean Congo Hemorrhagic Fever is found in Central and Eastern Europe countries, where the most cases were reported. Southern and Western European countries, such as Greece and Spain, have low level of endemicity. But the rate of the infection that is associated with climate change is a possibility that we should keep in mind. Now, let's look at the key factors about emergence of Crimean Congo Hemorrhagic Fever. Increase in temperature due to climatic changes facilitates the proliferation of tick population, and global warming may lead to geographical expansions in the northern hemisphere. Other key drivers of the emergence of Crimean Congo Hemorrhagic Fever in a new region are animal movements, increase in host animals, tick-susceptible animals, increase in tick populations, and wild bird carrying ticks. However, the interaction of these drivers is complex and not fully understood. Let me briefly summarize the main factors for spreading of Crimean Congo Hemorrhagic Fever to a new region or to a new country. Transport and trade of the animals harboring infected ticks is one of the factors. The other factor is cross-border movement of animals, especially the illegal movement of animals seen on the borders of Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Iran are related in the emergence of new outbreaks. And also migratory birds and human travel may cause spread of Crimean Congo Hemorrhagic Fever virus to Crimean Congo Hemorrhagic Fever-free countries. We investigated migratory birds' role in spreading Crimean Congo Hemorrhagic Fever virus through attached ticks. We detected Crimean Congo Hemorrhagic Fever virus RNA in ticks of migratory birds in Turkey. Two isolates show similarity with Crimean Congo Hemorrhagic Fever virus genotype 4, suggesting a role for ticks in Crimean Congo Hemorrhagic Fever epidemics in Turkey and spread of the virus by birds. Turkey is on the path of Black Sea, Mediterranean flyway of migratory birds, which crosses the Crimean Peninsula, then Black Sea region, then to Africa. It seems most likely that the spread of the virus by migratory birds and climatic and environmental changes, especially land use, the disease outbreak in Turkey. This is the distribution map of the 4 migratory bird species detected carrying ticks with Crimean Congo Hemorrhagic Fever virus. There is an overlap between Crimean Congo Hemorrhagic Fever endemic areas and breeding and wintering grounds of migratory birds, suggesting a potential role of migratory birds in carrying and spreading Crimean Congo Hemorrhagic Fever virus harboring ticks. In some countries, Crimean Congo Hemorrhagic Fever outbreaks were reported. During Eid al-Adha, it's a Muslim festival, it's a celebration of sacrifice. People sacrifice acceptable animals such as sheep, goat, camel, or cow by themselves and then share meat with poor people. So the festival, given the increased contact with animals, that threatens to increase the number of infections. Also, outbreaks have been reported during the festival in Pakistan. In the next 5 to 10 years, it will take place in the summer months that Crimean Congo Hemorrhagic Fever is more prevalent. Therefore, there's a potential risk of new outbreaks. Prevention of Crimean Congo Hemorrhagic Fever is essential during this slaughtering process. Overall, 12 travel-related cases were reported worldwide, and according to PROMED, there were infected cases traveling from Afghanistan to Pakistan. However, there's a low transmission risk for travelers, except for animal researchers, healthcare workers, hunters, and adventure travelers. The mortality rate of Crimean Congo Hemorrhagic Fever differs in various regions and also medical centers, and it is dependent on virus virulence, immunologic condition of the patient, the possibility of early diagnosis, and availability of treatment, and the quality of supportive treatment. Thus, the mortality rate of Crimean Congo Hemorrhagic Fever is very variable, from as low as 4% to more than 80%. In those endemic countries, such as Turkey, Iran, Pakistan, Russia, Kazakhstan, the case fatality rate is 4% to 20%. No vaccine or an approved antiviral therapy is available. Ribavirin was used for treatment of Crimean Congo Hemorrhagic Fever. However, there's a debate over whether ribavirin is needed to treat Crimean Congo Hemorrhagic Fever. Favipiravir is also being used to treat Crimean Congo Hemorrhagic Fever in laboratory animals with success. So we need more studies on this topic. There's an only available vaccine is Bulgarian vaccine. It has a limited efficacy. And now more modern approaches such as mRNA, DNA vaccines, recombinant viral protein-based vaccines, and virus-like particle vaccines are under development. Now let's move on to the next topic. So the early recognition is critical to controlling the spread of viral hemorrhagic fevers, especially Crimean Congo Hemorrhagic Fever. So rapid diagnosis is essential for prompt implementation of appropriate infection control measures and appropriate treatment of the cases. So these are the principal measures for prevention of Crimean Congo Hemorrhagic Fever and prevention of spread of the disease. We need to establish an effective surveillance system within at-risk regions and adequate preparation for the disease management. Networking and training play pivotal roles in sustaining a rapid and effective response to Crimean Congo Hemorrhagic Fever. International collaboration can provide scientific support, training in the diagnosis of Crimean Congo Hemorrhagic Fever cases, expert consultation, and the exchange of experiences and protocols for management of the disease with One Health approach. Also, control of animal movements and tick control in livestock is essential. We need to educate people and healthcare workers continuously and regularly. In 2016, Crimean Congo Hemorrhagic Fever was listed as a WHO priority pathogen for which urgent research and development and future research need to reduce spread of Crimean Congo hemorrhagic fever. Early rapid diagnosis of Crimean Congo hemorrhagic fever is gaining increasing importance in health programs. Therefore, we need a standard case definition for the disease, and the development of rapid diagnostic tests is critical. There's insufficient reliable evidence to show whether ribavirin is effective in treating Crimean Congo hemorrhagic fever. So randomized control trials could help answer this question. And also we need to develop Crimean Congo hemorrhagic fever vaccines and make clinical trials of candidate vaccines. At the end of my presentation, I would like to summarize the main point. Crimean Congo hemorrhagic fever is an emerging zoonosis. The global incidence of Crimean Congo hemorrhagic fever is increasing. Climate change, animal movements, migratory births are the main drivers of emergency of Crimean Congo hemorrhagic fever. Now, we don't have an approved antiviral drug and vaccine for prevention of the disease. So, an early diagnosis of the disease is fundamental. Risk assessment of emergence of zoonotic diseases is essential, especially this is true for Crimean Congo hemorrhagic fever. And One Health approach is needed to fight against the threat of Crimean Congo hemorrhagic fever. Finally, I would like to thank all my colleagues for their kindness and help. Thank you very much for your kind attention.